And there's a whole list of do's and don'ts on most of these little spares because they're not made to do highway speeds. Hello everyone, today on Homes How Do I, we're going to change out a tire. So the tire we're changing, I noticed it was bouncing a little bit when I was behind my wife last time. So we're going to take it off. I'll show you how to change it, show you where it's located at in the vehicle. That's not always the same. Walk you through a procedure in changing it. I'll show you in other vehicles where their spare tires are kept, and some alternatives of tools to take them off. And I'll even show you how to read the date codes on a tire. So with that, let's jump in. Okay, so on this Mazda 5, the spare tire is under the back area. Most people's spare, if you have one, it'll be in the back area as well. So with that, let's dig it out. Okay, so we gotta lift this tray up, and this thing is buried, so nice thing is we keep some spare stuff in here. Spare serpentine belt. Here's our tire tool for our jack. That's how they want you to lift the car on the front. So you gotta pull this out. Okay, so here's a tire. So to get the tire out, that's what your jack tool's for. You put it in here so you can undo this. Now these tires aren't made to ride full. They're not made to ride full time on. These are temporary use only. Now typically, I don't remember which side it's on, but a lot of times in your side panels, there it is, in your side panels, you'll have the jack, right? So you would just untighten this. Don't drop that down in the body. You just fish out the jack. So once you undo that, pull the jack out. Alright, let's jack it up. Now depending on how the car is sitting, try to keep these wedge blocks in the car, because if you're on a big hill, obviously it's going to go somewhere. So since this is front wheel drive, I'm going to put this wedge block under the back tires. Make sure that the car is in gear. And make sure that emergency brake is on. So with that, let's jack it up and get this tire off. Okay, so you just take your tire tool and you'll break all these free. Now, if you're on the side of the road, if someone has put these on super tight and you can't get them free, you can always put this on and stand on it. Sometimes these things are tight. And if you're on the side of the road and people are whizzing by at 60 miles an hour, you don't have a whole lot of time to sit there and mess with it. And these handles aren't very long, so you just put it on there, make sure it's on good, stand on it, you get a lot of leverage out of your legs. And when we put it back on, I'll show you another tool to keep in your car to make it a little easier also. Okay, so let's get it jacked up. This jack is made to jack up on the pinch seam of the car, so we got to go under. Right? So we got to find the pinch seam, which is, so in this car you got to really be careful. A lot of this is just plastic, right? So right in this area is the pinch seam of the car. That's where this is going to go under. And these jacks work pretty quick. So keep in mind, I'm under no pressure right here. I'm not sitting on the side of the highway. It changes things for you drastically. Right? So, jack's in place. Let's get it jacked up. Okay, so how these work is this tool hooks into the jack, and this hole in your jack handle goes over the end, and then you crank. Now you have to hold on to this because that's going to be your pivot, so that when you crank, okay, so that's off. So let's finish taking the tire off. Okay, so now we're just going to take these off. Okay, then I'm going to turn off. Now sometimes these things are stuck. You got to kick the wheels on the sides. And I'll show you something that'll help prevent that when we put the tire back on. Okay, so the reason why we took the tire off is I was following my wife's car the other day and it was bouncing really badly. So what I'm looking for is anything in the tire. Every now and then, if you happen to see like a small wave in the treads, like bumps or blisters, could be a split belt or something, right? So we're just looking for something in the tire. We had planned on just taking the tire up and having it rebalanced, and Duke's always close by. So as we look at these tires, every tire manufacturer has these little, I don't know how easy to see, these wear bars on the bottoms. That's just to indicate it's time to buy new tires. But just take a look at the tire and see what's wrong with it. Now obviously if you're changing on the roadside and it's flat, well, you got an issue. So just take a look at it. I don't see anything wrong with this tire. We're just going to take it up and let them check the balance on it. Okay, when you put your wheels on, make sure you put especially your spare, on the right direction. On the wheel on one side has this taper. It matches your lug nuts. On the other side it does not. It keeps the wheel located in the right position. So when you put these on, make sure that that tapered side is out. And there's a whole list of do's and don'ts on most of these little spares, because they're not made to do highway speeds, not for long at least, right? And periodically make sure that these tires are aired up as well, because they can go flat just sitting back there if you don't give them just a little bit of attention. So when you go to put these on, now these are a lot smaller, so they're easy. What you're just going to do is you're going to line up the bolt holes, and you're going to start the lug nuts by hand. The old saying, righty tighty, lefty loosey, that applies here. So just get them started by hand. If you grab some grass in your hand with the lug nuts, or gravel or whatever, just shake it off. But thumb tighten these up, just get them started. You don't want to mess up your threads. Now, you always have your sander tire tool that comes with everything, but suggestion I would make, they call it a 4-way. It's got multiple different sizes. The reason why these are so nice is it gives you a little more leverage, and when you're taking a tire on and off, you can see it spins. Now this one's bent a little bit, but you always tighten caddy corner. You don't want to start tightening here and have the wheel not centered. It centers up on that center hub, right? So the center hub and the lug nuts located. So you go caddy corner and you just get them hand tight until you can lower it. And once you lower it, you'll tighten it up. Now I'll show you on the actual tire. Now this is on the road. You're not going to torque these down. Your goal is just to get these tight long enough to get somewhere else, get the tire fixed. As soon as you get the tire fixed, you'll put the other one back on and we'll torque it down. So with that, let's get the other tire, let's get this off, and I'm going to show you some locations for spares on other cars. Okay, some vehicles it's easy to figure out where the spare tire is at. Like that Jeep, it's real easy. And some it's not. So on my Silverado, it actually sits under the vehicle. Right? It's raised up by this little device that came out of center a little bit. But on this, there's a set of rods. You take your ignition key, pulls this plug out. There's a set of rods you stick up inside of there that's located under the back seat, and it lowers the tire, and that way you can change it. And that's a full-size spare that you can run on. But most SUVs and that are running on something similar to this. Some wheels, the lug nuts will be exposed and they'll have different patterns on them for locking purposes. So make sure if you have one of these that you keep a special socket just to get those off. Keep that in your glove box. Some wheels are not actually rims with their hubcaps, so these are just little cosmetic covers. These will unscrew first, then you'll get to the actual lug nuts. Now we used that jack that was in the car to jack it up, because that's what you would have to use when you're on the road. So if you're not on the road, they have floor jacks like this that you would slide under, you would jack up. When you want to lower it down, you just twist the handle and it lowers back down. So if you're at home, stuff like this makes it real easy. So if you're just changing tire, you would slide this under the same body seam that you put the other jack under and lift it up. So a floor jack is a nice thing to have when you're at home. Okay, if you're ever curious on when your tires were made, so all the tires put a date code on them. They're right here. First two digits are week, second two digits are the year. I always put anti-seize on it. So if you've ever had a tire that won't come off, there's times when these things will actually corrode, especially some of the newer wheels. So these things will corrode on the back of the rotor or the drum so hard that you can't get them off at times. And I've had to actually sit down on the ground and kick with both feet on one side to try to free these things up. So this is, they make this in low and high temp. This is the copper, this is the higher temp stuff. Really at the same price as the lower temp. So I'll put it on the back of the wheel, and I'll put them on the threads for the lug nuts. That way I don't have to worry about getting things off. So let's get this put on. Okay, so I'm going to torque these wheels down. This is the first time I've seen a manual and not actually have an actual torque spec. So on this torque wrench, you pull the locking collar back, and if you look at how many pounds-foot of torque it takes, you see I'm going to set it at 100. So the 100 line, and you just read the graduations. So there's 100, and if I wanted 101 to be there, if I want 99 it'd be back. So 100 pounds-foot of torque. We'll get this torqued on. Okay, so if you're using air tools, make sure you're starting with your hands first. And we're just going to get it started. Remember, crisscross. Now I like these 4-ways over the tire tools they put in cars. Okay, so it's snugged up. Just lower the car back down and we'll torque it and get it torqued. Now we'll just tighten these till we hear a click. You can listen, you hear the click. And that's it. Okay, so that's another edition of Home Side Do I walked you through it just like you were roadside. You had a blowout. I showed you a regular jack. Some of the other spare tire locations on other vehicles, and some of the things that it'll help you, like the 4-way. That'll definitely help you. Putting the anti-seize on the back of the rim and on the studs for the lug nuts. Also, if you're using a torque wrench, make sure you back off the setting all the way to 0. Don't store it with pressure on the spring for torque. So everything is listed in the notes below. If you want to help the channel out, we're an Amazon affiliate, so anything you pick from there, it definitely helps us out. So with that, another edition of Home Side Do I. We're changing spare tire. Remember to like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you on the next tip.